Most household stains. 1001 troubleshooter.
Tyne Tees Today with Paul Frost and Pam Royal.
And welcome to our first programme. The name has changed, but we'll still be bringing you the region's main news stories at 6 o'clock each evening.
And tonight's main headline: unemployment in Rippon is about to double. The area's main factory is closing down.
Also tonight, fuel tanks from a jet fighter crash into a farmer's field.
An airlift for Somalia's starving. Can the North East fill an aircraft in a week?
Why the region's best-known agony ant is going through the pain barrier.
And hallelujah, have you got what it takes to sing with the North East's biggest choir?
One of the Rippon's biggest employers is to pull out of the area. Premier Poultry, which employs 360 people, will close down its processing factory by the end of the year. The Harrogate area unemployment figures have shot up from just over 2,800 last August to more than 3,600 this year. The latest job losses at Premier, together with 1,600 redundancies expected at the RAF supply depot in Harrogate, could push the jobless total in the coming year to over 5,200.
The bad news has been sinking in over the weekend. Workers at Premier were shocked but not surprised. They've been expecting the worst for some time. When they join the dole queue, they'll put Rippon's unemployment rate up to over 10%.
It was expected, really, but it's just a shock when it comes. Not much more you can say.
I've expected it. I think nearly all expected it, really, but still it's a blow to Rippon. It's a blow to this area.
Rippon's a small market town with not too many large employers. And Premier was, in fact, the second largest employer in Rippon. It's going to mean the loss of some 350 jobs and a cost to the Rippon economy of some £5 million per annum.
No one from Premier Poultry could give us an interview today, but a spokesman told me that they're closing the factory because they can't justify investing more money here in Rippon when they already have spare capacity at their purpose-built factory in Scunthorpe. The closure may boost Premier's profits in the face of intense European competition, but it spells out a bleak Christmas for Rippon. Concern is so great that the Council's Economic Development Subcommittee is preparing for a crisis meeting at the earliest opportunity. But while there are some job hopes for Rippon, the immediate prospects are gloomy.
The sad fact is, in the short term, not many will have a chance of a job. There is a Safeway supermarket which is opening, which is going to create jobs for some 100 people, but many of these will be part-time. We're hoping that the so-called green shoots, which are supposed to be rising in the economy, will become a reality. At the moment, we do need a magnifying glass, we've got to admit.
An official inquiry has begun to find out why 2 fuel tanks fell off an RAF Tornado. It was in flight over North Yorkshire at the time. The tanks landed in a farmer's field. No one was hurt.
The fuel tanks came down in a farmer's field at West Harlesey near Northallerton. It's about 8 miles from RAF Leeming, where the plane had taken off shortly before on a routine training exercise. The tanks were fixed underneath the wings and were empty. Fire crews helped the RAF recover them. The plane, an F-3 fighter like this one, had a pilot and navigator on board from 25 Squadron based at Leeming. They landed back safely. It's the second time tanks have fallen from a tornado at Leeming in 20 months. The RAF has begun an inquiry.
Now cast your mind back to 1984 when the famine in Ethiopia was in the news. Pictures being back of starving children spurred people in the northeast to respond with unbelievable generosity to an Oxfam appeal. Our region was the first in the country to help by sending supplies by plane and by boat. In all, £2 million was raised. Well, today Oxfam launched another appeal for your help, this time for the people of Somalia.
These pictures from Somalia mirror what the famine in Ethiopia was like in 1984. Thousands are dying every day. Children and the elderly are most vulnerable. Your generosity in 1984 brought hope and saved the lives of tens of thousands of people in Ethiopia. In response to the appeal then launched by the North East branch of Oxfam, you raised £2 million so that 2 plane loads and a big boat stacked high with supplies could leave the region bound for Ethiopia. Former Tyne Tees reporter Phil Martin was there.
And if there is anybody watching who thinks to themselves, I wonder whether if you actually give to an appeal, whether it is translated into action, whether it really does get to the place it's supposed to get, well, I know it does because I saw it.
The target this time is to raise £85,000. It'll be spent on equipment for cleaning water, feeding kits and woolen tops and blankets. A plane loaded with supplies will leave Newcastle Airport next Monday. Oxfam workers are waiting for your pledges of money. You can ring 091 221 0626 between 9 in the morning until 9 p.m. or take your donation to your nearest Oxfam shop.
And with me now is the area director of Oxfam, Karen Schofield. Karen, there's never a good time for an appeal like this, but you've got all the odds stacked against you. There's the crisis in what was Yugoslavia, there's Romania looming again. How are you going to cope with it?
You're absolutely right, there is never a good time. The fact is, however, that the crisis is absolutely desperate, and I think we have to decide either we're going to respond or not. If we give up before we start, we will achieve nothing. And it's worth remembering that last time when we launched, we were in the depths of the last recession, where the big story locally was the miners' strike. Communities were completely divided. So despite that in local terms, the response was superb here. It outstripped anywhere else in the country, and I'm expecting the North East to take the lead again.
You haven't given yourself much time to do it, have you?
We've given ourselves a day longer than we did last time.
7 days?
7 days, yes.
What's your priority, very quickly?
Priority is money so that we can actually pay the bills. It's not big amounts of money. What was so special about last time was the thousands and thousands of people who got involved, whatever way they could. Small amounts adds up to a lot.
I'm sure they'll respond again. That number again is 091 221 0626.
And another appeal to our region's generosity was made today. This year's Royal British Legion Poppy Appeal was launched on Tyneside with a plea for many more volunteers to help with the collection. They're needed because last year the Northern region came bottom of the league for the number of contributions. They contributed less than 14 pence per head. That's well below the national average. Flight Lieutenant John Nichol of North Shields, who was shot down and held prisoner during the Gulf War, said the Poppy Appeal is now more important than ever. People thought of it as just helping veterans and relatives from the two world wars, he said, but in fact there's only been 1 year, 1968, when no British serviceman has been killed in action. And now it's time to look at more of the region's news in our Tyne Tees newslines.
3 people have appeared before magistrates in Gateshead in connection with the death of Tyneside schoolteacher Jack Royale. He was shot on his doorstep in Sunnyside 2 years ago. The committal hearing is expected to last all week. Up to 1,500 men have walked off the Enron power station site in Cleveland in a row over safety. It's the second time in a week the site has come to a standstill. A memorial to former West Hartlepool rugby player John Howe has been unveiled at the club. John died of a heart attack during a match at Morley last year. British Coal still wants to develop open cast mining at Marley Hill near Gateshead despite losing a public inquiry 2 years ago. The local council says the new plans differ significantly from the last. Easington MP John Cummins has called for an urgent meeting with Michael Heseltine over the future of the region's coal industry. He says jobs are being put at risk by what he calls the economics of the madhouse. 600 people have signed a petition calling for the return of the bells at Emmanuel Church in Saltburn. The chimes were silenced last year when 39 people complained of the noise.
And now time for the region's sports news with Duncan Wood.
Thank you. Well, we've got a new look to the programme tonight, but it's the same old story as far as Newcastle United are concerned, because they're still the team to beat in the Football League. They made it 9 out of 9 at Brentford yesterday, but their toughest test of the season will be at Middlesbrough in the Coca-Cola Cup on Wednesday. Borough manager Lenny Lawrence, who was happy with the point against Manchester United on Saturday, has already confirmed that John Hendry has recovered from injury and will start the second leg tie. Hendry and his teammates spent yesterday in front of the telly checking out their rivals. Newcastle now have a 5-point lead at the top of the First Division. Grit and determination and a thumping goal from David Kelly put them in the driving seat at Griffin Park. They took total control after the interval when new signing Robert Lee came so close to getting his first goal for the club. Skipper Gavin Peacock was on hand for the follow-up and the game looked over. But it was brought back to life by Brentford when they pulled one back. Gary Blissett got the better of Kevin Scott and smashed it past Tommy Wright. Newcastle, though, hung on for all 3 points. Sunderland get the live match treatment next Sunday at West Ham. Morale at the club got a definite boost at the weekend when Don Goodman stole the show against Millwall. His timely double has eased the pressure on Malcolm Crosby and co. for the moment. A repeat performance at Upton Park wouldn't go amiss. Hartlepool are now 4th in the second division after Friday night's 1-0 win against Blackpool. They're on top form, Andy Saville scoring the penalty after he was shoved down in the penalty box. York is still riding high at the top of the third, despite being held to a draw by Doncaster. They actually took the lead with a Grant Morrow goal and had York in all kinds of trouble. But the equaliser came from the penalty spot when Paul Stancliffe was fouled in the box. Nigel Pepper steps up to get his 4th penalty in a row, and John Ward's team get a deserved point. Scarborough are now heading in the right direction again. Mark Jules put them in front at Bury, who hadn't lost at home since March. The new back pass law was responsible for the farcical goal of the day. Keeper Gary Kelly in a terrible mess as on loan Paul Wheeler tees it up for Darren Foreman. Ray McHale's side are now 7th in the third division. And Darlington are off the bottom of the table, but only after Torquay's Sean Joyce put the frighteners on them at Feetham's. Fortunately, Mark Doby levelled it from the spot with his first goal for the club. And skipper Tim Parkin put them in front with his debut strike for the Quakers. The third was a great run on goal by Steve Mardenborough, a quality finish too. And substitute Andy Toman rounded off the night. It finished 4-1 to Darlington. Rugby now, and Newcastle Gosforth have set their stall out for the rest of the season by notching up their second win in a row. But West Hartlepool are finding life tough at the top in Division 1. We start, though, on a winning note down at Waterloo.
Gosforth must really fancy their chances in Division 2 after their latest win. David Johnson had kicked them into a 6-3 lead when good line-out possession saw the ball reach Ross Wilkinson, and the centre's pace and power did the rest for the game's only try. Johnson's conversion made it safe at 13-3, and now Gosforth are raring to go for next weekend's showdown against Nottingham. At Brereton Lane, it was finally balanced at 12-9 to Harlequins, 5 minutes from time. Then West's Dave Cook cut through the Quins' defence to score what he thought was a priceless try. But the referee didn't agree, and it was disallowed because he said Cook's momentum hadn't taken him over. With the last kick of the game, skipper John Stabler had a chance to level the scores, but it wasn't an easy kick, and West's hopes drifted away with the ball as Harlequins picked up their first victory of the season.
Well, it doesn't get any easier for West, I'm afraid, because next week they've got the daunting task of trying to win at Leicester. It's definitely going to be tough at the top, Pam.
Yes, I'm sure it's agony down there in Hartlepool. I wonder if the North East's own agony aunt has any advice for them.
Well, I'm not sure about that because Denise Robertson is a Sunderland supporter and they've had more than their share of problems recently. She also spends a lot of her time writing books.
In fact, she's just published her 10th novel, and there are more on the way. Many see her as a successor to our most famous author, Catherine Cookson.
Struck me listening to that interview and seeing
to millions of viewers, she's the TV agony aunt. Her friendly, down-to-earth advice on This Morning and other programmes have brought Denise Robertson fame, fortune and a frenetic workload. Back home in Seaham, she finds a rare moment to cuddle Sarah, grandchild number 6 and the latest addition to the family. but not for long. Within minutes, the phone's ringing, and this supercharged woman is busy arranging another TV appearance or talking to her publisher. Denise Robertson may be more famous as an agony aunt, but writing is the great passion of her life.
It's the most satisfying thing, apart from family life and the fact that I have a happy marriage. Writing's the thing that gives me the most pleasure. I mean, to be in a room creating something, having your characters do things with the rain beating on the window outside, you can't beat it.
Today sees the publication of her 10th novel. The Beloved People is set in the northeast in the 20s and 30s. Already 2 more books are in the pipeline. When she's not writing herself, she's encouraging others to take up the art.
If you're sitting on a bus, you can see somebody and think, she looks miserable, or he's in a bad mood. And that can set off the idea. If you let the ideas come, they come.
On this occasion, second-year pupils at Sandhill View Comprehensive in Sunderland are getting the benefit of her experience.
We do damage to our children by, we're terribly afraid of them getting cocky. When I put my very first book into my mother's hands, she looked at it and said, "Very nice, dear, don't let it go to your head." Now that's a typical northern mother's attitude, and I think it's led to us thinking that there are people beyond this region who do things better than us. It was a revelation to me to find out that they're not. It's made me see that we're as good as anybody else, and I think it's desperately important that we bring our children up to realise that.
Change your mind on the first day of life, but I am still free. Take a chance on me if you need me.
This is TV's agony aunt as she's never been seen before. It's her way of keeping fit and recharging her batteries. Even when she's relaxing, Denise Robertson is in overdrive.
I wanted to make the best use of the body I had. I often say I'm the same vintage as Joan Collins, but bottled slightly differently. And I thought if I did aerobics, even if it didn't make me elegant, it would tone me up. And it's been wonderful. It makes you feel stronger, better, more capable in every way. It's had quite a magic effect.
All of her novels are either set in or contain references to the northeast. And the fact that she's also a woman has led some people inevitably to compare her with the great Catherine Cookson.
I am immensely flattered by it, but there can only and should only be one Catherine Cookson. I would like to think that at the end of my career I will have done 100th part for the northeast that woman has done. I really revere her as a northeasterner and as a writer, and she'll never be replaced.
And someone else who can't be replaced is our energetic weatherman, Bob Johnson. But he's only irreplaceable if he gives us a good forecast. Let's find out what it's to be tonight.
Energetic. Denise was talking about the northeast there. I was watching the National Weather Outlook this morning, and they mentioned the northeast wind, a lazy wind.
I know that one. I've got a wee book that tells me the northeast wind's a lazy wind because it doesn't bother to go round you, it just goes straight through you. And that's the problem today. In fact, it seems to have got to your tonsils.
It's through my tonsils, I think, yes. They're about shot, I think.
But we're stuck with it, I'm afraid. We're stuck with this northeasterly breeze for at least a couple of days or so. But you see tonight, it's mainly dry. There's a few spits of showers around the region. Nothing really to worry anybody about. It's going to be a cold night. I think that breeze, that same breeze, keeping temperatures up near the coast to about 46. However, once you get inland, once you get up, once you get a bit of shelter, temperatures could get down as low as 4. And that, we're talking about a touch of ground frost, particularly in the upland valleys. Tomorrow morning we're starting bright again. I think the story is we're going to chase the sunshine. It's going to be difficult to find it, but mainly dry again, and still the problem of that breeze. Very raw sort of days it keeps coming in. In the afternoon it get even stronger near the coast. A fine afternoon. So if you're going to red car races, wrap up. Maybe a shower, mainly dry but cold. Temperatures on the cold side. If we take a look further on in the week, some hope here. High pressure's with us, lighter winds right throughout, so it's looking quite promising, Paul.
I was having a quick half shandy with my mates in the Burglar's Arms the other night, and they said, ask Bob when we're going to get this. There's a lot of farmers in there. When we're going to get this Indian summer.
Yeah, well, we've got this little St Luke's summer coming along. This is what they call St Luke's Little Summer. Around about the 18th of October, 2 or 3 days of dry weather. Hey, it could be early this year. This could be St Luke's Little Summer coming up.
St Luke's, I'll ask you about that later. I'll wrap up warm as well. I hope you found Bob's extended Tyne Tees Today weather uplifting. If you didn't, there's only one thing for it. How about a chorus of 2 of Hallelujah?
You could consider it an audition, because worshippers at Durham's Elvet Methodist Church are planning to recruit a choir of 700 to raise the roof with a 3-hour performance of Handel's Messiah. It's a spectacular in every sense, but we've been wondering, where will they find so many performers? The huge musical stunt is aimed at raising £250,000 to do up the church. I must warn you, Bob Whittaker's report isn't for those who like a quiet time in front of the box.
When Andre Previn flips his baton, there are usually a lot of fiddles playing and a load of singers singing. But Brian Manners has a problem as big as Durham's Elvet Methodist Church itself. He's had this musical vision, you see. He wants to fill the pews with 700 vocalists to perform the Northeast's biggest ever rendition of Handel's Messiah. No cobweb will be safe in this lovely old building if the plan comes off. The sopranos, tenors and altos will raise the rafters and hopefully ring in the beginning of a new era for the Edwardian Church. It's hoped the singers will come readily sponsored to raise some of the £250,000 needed to develop Elvet, not just as a church, but as a community centre, and to transform the building into one of the region's most impressive concert venues.
I hope that many of the region's choirs will come, and I would very much like them to come as choirs, and if they have a uniform, to come and sit together so they can be distinguished. But ordinary people who've done a certain amount of choral singing, I'm not looking for expertise. I'm not looking for people who are necessarily going to sing all the choruses.
The big event on November the 21st will be dominated by hundreds of amateurs, but at least a top professional will lead them, the Northeast's very own Sheila Armstrong. The international soprano will be supported by 3 other leading vocalists. And so that the 700 chorus can keep track with the ups and downs of Handel, there'll be 3 assistant conductors dotted around, trying to keep everyone in time, hopefully. So the scene is set for one of the Northeast's most spectacular, unusual, yet uplifting musical events of the year. But whether or not it's a success depends on you. Luckily, they've made the best possible start in gathering the massed vocalist ranks. The Elvet's own choir will lead the way, and Durham University's chamber orchestra will strut its stuff in the background. But do we have enough talent in the Northeast to match up to the big occasion? Tyne Tees Today did its best to find out.
Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
That's pathetic. I'll get the big audience. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
Hallelujah! That's our singing, and if you don't like it, you're nicked.
Love it. Not guilty at all. If you're in the Durham area, watch out. There is a singing detective about.
And now it's time to go over to the newsroom for the latest national and international headlines.
Thanks, Pam. The latest on the Amsterdam air disaster, and experts believe the crash was caused by engine failure. More than 250 people are believed dead. Meanwhile, in the city, the pound has plunged again against the mark and the dollar, raising new fears of a rise in interest rates here. And the building industry is warning that 50,000 more jobs may go by the end of the year. And I'm afraid the news is no better here in the region. About 400 workers are to be made redundant at a food factory in Rippon after Christmas. Again in North Yorkshire, an inquiry has been launched after an RAF Tornado dropped 2 fuel tanks near the A19 near Osmotherley. Finally, we've just got time to give you that number again if you want to give some cash to help the starving in Somalia. That report from Maria Coyle earlier on. It's a Tyneside number. That's 091 221 0626. That's 221 0626. That's all from the newsroom for now.
Thank you, Dawn, and that ends our first Tyne Tees Today.
We hope you can join us at 6 o'clock tomorrow, but are you still going to be here? Your voice has been getting progressively
I hope so.
worse.
It started off rough, and all I can describe it now is about just impossible. We've got the first programme out the way anyway.
We've got a new set, but I think you need a new voice.
I'll be working on it. I'll be gargling with something nice this evening. Treacle and honey.
Don't speak until tomorrow night. Good night.
A flying start for round B of the Krypton Factor.